What's up? What's happening? Friday on the Hoffman Show. We're always on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube as we do each and every day as well at the Team 980. And we come to you today with good news. Maybe something better than bad news. That's what we've got for you. Jayden Daniels practiced today, which I'm sure you heard on the Roosters show. But if you're just tuning in, just getting out of work, the news is not the best, as in like, hey, he practiced and he's playing. He was a limited participant, anticipating him being listed as questionable. We'll get the absolute latest and as much detail as we can pry out of Nicki Jhabvala. She's been trying to pry information out of Dan Quinn and everybody else over there this week. But yeah, it is not a or it is a good sign for Jayden Daniels to potentially play on Sunday. He apparently, according to Dan Quinn, they pushed things pretty hard today. They'll see how he responds tomorrow. And this was always kind of what I thought would happen if he had a chance to play. There was a chance we got to today and they were just like, yeah, he ain't playing. Like, we were hoping he'd feel better and he isn't, so he's not. But realistically, he's 23 years old. He seemed to feel okay-ish coming out of the game in terms of it's not like it hurt him to move around, but we also know that, 2 hours prior when he tried to throw a football, he slammed his helmet down and went back to the locker room. So it's not like he wasn't hurt. It's not like I don't think he could have come back in the Carolina game. I've seen some people say that, and I think that is overstating it. I think there was no reason to test it out, but he clearly didn't want to leave that game and was frustrated and hurt, as if evidenced by him throwing the ball and then throwing his helmet. Now we sit here with him on a Friday, having had, 5 days to rest, and he's probably feeling a lot better. Now, the big question is going to be if they pushed it today and they had him make tough throws and throw on the run and move, and he was able to perform all of those tasks, how does he feel tomorrow? Because if he wakes up and he's crazy sore and he can't do it again, that feels a little bit risky. And it feels like, okay, well, then maybe we need to see how you feel Sunday morning. Because if that's the case, okay, well, if you can just get through the game, then if we sit you in practice on Wednesday next week and it heals a little bit more, like eventually you'll be back to normal, but you won't have to miss any games along the way. You're just going to have to deal with being a little bit sore. If he wakes up tomorrow and he's fine, well, then he's probably playing on Sunday. And I know that there's probably the opposite reaction you would expect of your star quarterback is going to play that most fans will have. And I understand that on a fundamental level. Because the last time we went through this with a number 2 overall pick who had a meteoric rise and was looking like the talk of the town and all of that was Robert. And it's like, oh, hey, he wants to play. He's going to push it. And he played in the Seattle game. And then the turf monster got him and he was never the same again. These are very different scenarios. And I think we have to eventually just put on our big boy and girl pants on and just say they're different. Not to say that they should push him and they should do whatever, but it's not just because a guy gets hurt and then potentially comes back sooner than we maybe imagine doesn't inherently mean it's a mistake. Guys heal. And if he has legitimately healed and he is fine, well, then it's like the injury never happened. He's fine. If he's not fine, then he shouldn't play. Like in some ways, it's that simple. And none of us on the outside are going to know whether or not he's fine or not. We just have to trust that there's adults in the room now, and responsible adults in the room now, making these decisions in a way that back in 2012, there weren't as many responsible adults in the room, because the most powerful adult in the room was actually a giant man-child who had bought his favorite football team back in the late 90s and had no business making any kind of decisions. And he empowered the 23-year-old kid who just wanted to play over the responsible adults with the last name Shanahan. And the general manager / team president, whatever Bruce was at the time, obviously not that good at the job and not a responsible adult by any stretch of the imagination on something like this, compared to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris, who's going to go, don't listen to what Jayden says outside of asking him how he feels and letting the doctors translate that. listen to the doctors, and protect the asset. Okay, cool. Good talk. If I'm Josh Harris and I'm getting involved, my involvement is he better be okay if he's playing, not whatever the kid says, because I want to be his friend. And so the situations are incredibly different outside of number 2 pick wearing burgundy and gold. And if he is truly well enough to play, he should play because that's what he gets paid to do. And by the way, I feel like on some level, it's a coping mechanism because, if Marcus plays and then Chicago wins, well, hey, we can still say that when Jayden gets back, we're one of the best teams in football. We were 5-2 with Jayden. Whenever he gets back, like we'll keep rolling. Then if you go beat the Giants next week, we're 6-2 with Jayden. That's not as fun as competing. I want to see what he looks like against Chicago. I would rather see what he looks like if he was fully healthy and had a week of practice, but it's the NFL. Sometimes that stuff happens. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens tomorrow. If Sam Hartman gets called up from the practice squad, they could certainly just rule Jayden out then and there. They could also call Hartman up and then potentially roll with 4 quarterbacks on Sunday. Because technically when you call someone up from the practice squad, you don't have to do anything with that. You can just call him up precautionarily, and then Sunday morning, if Jayden is you can make Jayden inactive, and then Hartman the third quarterback, and then Driscoll's your backup to Marcus. Like you could do that, and you just have extra inactives. If you don't, then Hartman just becomes inactive, and congrats, dude. You get a big boy game check for the week. But Jayden's ready to go, and then Driscoll will probably be the third guy. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do tomorrow, because although practice is closed tomorrow, they do typically do some kind of walkthrough or something on a Saturday to get everybody moving and make sure that the final details are nailed down. And so whatever happens tomorrow, he'll report in the morning. He'll be sore or not. They'll move around. They'll test it. He'll pass or not. And then they'll do the same thing on Sunday. And hopefully we know by Sunday morning. I know if you got fantasy teams, and the bad part is Commanders are 4:00. So if your backup quarterback plays at 1 and you're waiting on a game time decision at 3:00 when the inactives come out, like that's a bad deal. But it's probably just going to be an anxious day on Sunday to see whether or not he plays. And then if he does, it's going to be anxious to see if he can make it through the game and if it becomes a problem at all and how he performs. And if he doesn't play, then it's an anxious day because Marcus Mariota is your quarterback, and that is not how you draw it up. So it's a big drop-off if Marcus plays average Marcus ball. If Marcus plays his face-off, like, cool. There's a lot that they can do with Marcus at quarterback, but it is all going to run better with Jayden out there. And so I'm hoping not just for the Jayden Caleb stuff. Like, I really want to see him against a really good defense, and I want to see what it looks like. And I think it's also a test of some of their process here. Like, they really like their process of getting ready for games, and I do too. In terms of the virtual reality stuff that he does, or the walkthroughs, like he's participated in all that stuff this week. How ready can you get a player, especially at that position, at his experience level, for a game without practicing? Man, if they can do that, wow, what a compliment to Cliff Kingsbury and Anthony Lynn and Tavita Pritchard and Brian Johnson and everybody on that staff for preparing that. They probably have had to prepare on some level 2 game plans this week, slight tweaks off of the same 2 branches off the same tree. But if nothing else, Chicago's had to deal with all this stuff too. So Chicago's got to know, hey, if Mariota's in, this is what we're looking for. If Daniels is in, this is what we're looking for. And they don't know how effective he's going to be or what version of the offense is going to be called. So at the very, very least, because they've done everything right, because they've played it by the book, as if to keep the option open for him to play, the gamesmanship has worked. Now we find out if this has all been a ruse the entire time, or I guess in the next couple of days, we'll find out if it's been a ruse the entire time, or if it's a process that ultimately is because he's actually going to play, or maybe it was because he was actually going to play and he doesn't quite get past the finish line. This could have not been a ruse at all, and he still doesn't play. So those are the options. We'll find out soon enough, but it's not going to be today. Daniels participates in practice, likely listed as questionable for Sunday. We'll get an official injury report in just a little bit, and we'll share it with you here on the show. Again, Nicki Jhabvala coming up at 5 o'clock today. We'll go around the NFL at 5:30, finish Friday. Your calls with predictions for the game coming up at 4:30. But next, we always ask on Friday, what's at stake? And how much does that answer change for Washington if Daniels plays? We'll discuss next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And on Fridays, we always ask a question. What's at stake for the Commanders in their game today, or on Sunday, I beg your pardon, as they take on the Chicago Bears? And it's a question that I think is interesting because we don't know whether Jayden Daniels is going to play. And I think a lot of people would feel one way if he plays, one way if he's not. Like if he doesn't play and they win, like, oh my God, what found gold. Sweet. If he plays and they lose, well, then it's like a real loss and a real hit. They're not going to be like, oh, well, he was hurt, unless he's out there and obviously like not 100%, and that ultimately is impacting the outcome. So in some ways, it's hard to answer this right now, but Anthony, I do think it's worth giving our best shot. And again, the latest news on Daniels is that he is likely going to be listed as questionable, and I think actually that might have just come out, the injury report. So I'm gonna double click on this real quick. Oh man, that's a bummer. Thursday Night Football last night, Christian Darrisaw, this just in, he tore his ACL and MCL, so he's out for the season. Their star left tackle. Yeah, so we have the official injury designation as of like 5 minutes ago. Commanders are listing Jayden Daniels as questionable for Sunday. Dorrance Armstrong also questionable. Brandon Coleman is out with a concussion. Those are the three that we've been looking at all week. So the fact that he's questionable, he's not doubtful, he's not obviously out, like there's a chance that he really plays. So Anthony, if Jayden Daniels plays, and we assume that if he's playing, he's healthy, what's at stake for the Commanders on Sunday? If they win, what does it mean? If they lose, what does it mean?
I think offensively, I don't think we're too worried about how the offense will do with or without Jayden Daniels.
Who's we on that? Because I sure as bleep am.
What'd you say?
I said I sure am. Like, who's we on that? I'm very concerned about the offense without Jayden against this particular Chicago defense.
I mean, that's fair. I might have got a little too far out over my skis. But I do trust Cliff to call a good game just to, make Marcus comfortable. That's more so like what I was getting at. But I think from a defensive standpoint, I think the teams that we've, beaten up on, I think those were the teams we need to beat on. I think from a defensive standpoint, this is a great test, and it's going to tell us whether or not we can, contend with some of the best teams in the NFL. Not to say the Bears are, one of those teams, but they've been playing pretty good. They're coming off a bye week. So I'm more so like looking at it from a defensive standpoint in terms of where we'll trek or progress during the rest of the season.
I think that's a good point because I do think that the defense, this is a good enough challenge that it's not Cleveland, it's not Carolina last week where you can just beat up on them and they're barely NFL caliber. This is a real NFL offense with real NFL players up and down the roster. Now, it's not an elite offense by any stretch. Do not let their performance against the Jags and the Panthers fool you. And if all of a sudden you look like the Jags and the Panthers against this Bears offense, that is a bad sign for you because if there's something you don't want to look like in 2024, it's the Panthers or the Jags. So I do think that is a good point. I also do wonder, though, how much the Daniels for Mariota offensive efficiency switch impacts the defense. I think part of how this defense has been good this year is they've been in good situations from a game flow score standpoint, and they've also been kept off the field. I mean, that was a huge problem last season as they were just on the field forever because Bieniemy kept just pass, punt, pass, punt, pass, run, punt, run, pass, field goal. Cool. Like that's what it was last year. This year, it's like run, pass, run, touchdown. Pass, run, pass, run, touchdown. Like the drives are so much longer and the defense is on the field so much less that if all of a sudden Marcus is missing a couple extra throws and they're going 3 and out more often, can this defense hold up in some extra possessions? I was asked an interesting question earlier today. There's a program that we have. Why did I just say program like my grandmother does and I'm 100 years old? There's a show that is on the Odyssey app on the weekends hosted by my guy, Andrew Filipponi. It's a FanDuel radio show, and we taped something today, which either you'll hear on Sunday or we'll redo live on Sunday because all of a sudden Jayden is going to be playing and everything we said is not going to make as much sense. But the total in this game, Anthony, is only like 43.5. And Andrew asked me, he goes, which do you think Washington would favor, the over or the under? In other words, what's a better situation for Washington, the over or the under that 43.5 or whatever the number is on Sunday, somewhere in that range? And I was like, I think it's the over, because I think they don't mind a track meet. And I think if they can get going offensively and start scoring a bunch of points, their defense is set up better that way in a Caleb Williams is chasing the game versus a grinded out, slow, punt fest where there's a million possessions in the game and you're just more likely to give up big plays that way. Like, they're bend but don't break. The less opportunities you have to break, the better. And so if they can be in a higher scoring game where Chicago's got to take some more chances, I think that risk reward can tilt the risk in Washington's favor. And to me, that's like actually one of the huge keys to the game. The other big thing we always ask on Friday is like, what's the key to the game? I think there is a sweet spot of aggression for Joe Witt Jr. defensively. And I don't know exactly what it is. I just know it exists somewhere, and it's his job to find it. That's why he makes what he makes, and I sit here in front of a microphone and make what I make. But you gotta light Caleb up a little bit. You want to invite him to throw deep a little bit because he'll give you a chance to catch an arm punt and go the other way. But I also don't want to be the team that he finds the deep ball against. And with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze against these corners, I am very, very averse to putting those guys in a ton of one-on-one, man-to-man situations.
Yeah, I think that's in part, why I felt this was, a nice test for the defense because, again, we know what DJ Moore does against poor corners. We know what he did.
I seriously don't understand why they're wearing those black jerseys again. Like, DJ Moore's going to see those jerseys that he saw last year on Thursday night and be like, oh, goody gumdrops. I like this.
8 catches, 230, 10 targets, 3 touchdowns.
Ugh.
Man. But yeah, so you got DJ Moore, you also got Keenan Allen, and then also Cole Kmet, who has been targeted. Craig, he's been targeted 29 times, and he has 26 receptions. That's pretty impressive.
That's real good.
So again, I think this is going to be a good test for the defense. If it is a track meet, though, we're definitely probably going to need a Jaden at QB. Or unless, we can, sustain, get our running game going because they are susceptible against the run. They've given up 90, 100 yards to running backs the entire season. So maybe if that's our game plan, but a track meet, I think Jaden is going to be our best bet.
Well, of course, Jaden's your best bet. Like he's a better quarterback. There's in a slog it out game, Jaden's your best bet. He's just the better quarterback. I do think the run game is the biggest thing for thing I feel best about this weekend. Washington running the football on Chicago. They're not a great run defense. They've been exceptional against the pass, but they have given up a ton of chunk plays this year. And Washington has been as good as any team in the league outside of Baltimore, basically, at getting chunk plays on the ground. And that is one part of the game that Marcus not does as well as Jaden because he's not quite as explosive if he were to break one in the open field. Like they can get to that, hey, it's time to run full speed, and then Jaden's full speed's a lot faster. But Marcus is a tremendous ball handler, so some of the zone read stuff, he's good at making the decisions. He's good at pulling the defensive end out. Like even a guy like Montez Sweat, who's athletic enough to play the dive, play the keep, he can really ride that handoff long enough to make Montez that half step slow that he needs to be, whether he pulls it or gives it. And so there's a lot of really good run game stuff that I think is still on the table with Marcus. In fact, most of it. The question is going to be, what kind of boxes are you seeing? Because against Jaden, I don't want to play light boxes, or I don't want to play heavy boxes because then he's probably going to throw on us, and that's not good. Against Marcus, I'm like, you are not like if I'm doing Chicago radio this afternoon, I'm screaming, maybe not screaming, I am emphatically saying, stop the run, stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. I don't care if you got 9 guys in the box. If Marcus Mariota beats us, oh well. I know. Look, Terry McLaurin's great. But we got Jalen Johnson. We're going to match him up one-on-one. And if Terry beats Jalen, then, congrats on being the first guy to beat Jalen in a long time. Salute have to. If they want to beat us with Noah Brown and De'Ami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus on the rest of our guys, okay, we'll lose that way. but they are not running the football on us. And so if that's Jayden Daniels, I am not saying that. And that is like the difference in those two guys on top of their ability to execute whatever. It's like, I think it completely changes the defensive game plan if I'm Chicago. But I am also of the Belichick school that I am adapting my defense week to week to what the offense wants to do and making them beat us another way. Matt Eberflus is much more of a, like, just this is our defense. We play it really well. We're going to do it. So I think they're going to see a lot of single high, which, again, it's that heavier box. A lot of single high, but they're also going to potentially have to do it. I got to go check the Bears side of the injury report without Jaquan Brisker. So it's going to be dicey for both sides, missing some key guys potentially. And if all of a sudden Jaden's in there, Washington's not really missing anybody but Brandon Coleman. And so that's a pretty significant game changer as well. Chicago potentially without, and actually let me just go ahead and see if I can find this real quick. Let's see. Bears. Have you put out your injury report yet? They put out roster moves. They released a fullback and they waived Velus Jones. Big Hard Knocks star. Bears Friday injury report. Brisker and Gordon are out. So their star nickel and their star safety both out. Concussion and hamstring respectively. That is a big deal for Washington on Sunday. Big deal. When we get back, your predictions. 301-230-0980. It's a finish Friday, and we want to know how you think the game is going to finish on Sunday. 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. And again, Jayden Daniels has been listed as questionable for the game on Sunday. Out for the Bears, Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. So we want to know your predictions. It's Finish Friday here on the Hoffman Show in honor of what they do in Ashburn, where they have their own Finish Friday. But instead of working on tackling drills and scoop and score drills, we just ask you how the game's going to finish on Sunday. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. Let's start off with Rick in Fayetteville. Rick, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, what's up, Greg?
What's up?
All right, man. Yeah, man. I think he shouldn't play on Sunday. I just think give him time to rest and heal. I think we still can beat the Bears with Mariota at quarterback, but I'll just prefer to just give him an extra week's rest.
Okay, Rick, let me ask you a question. What do you know about his injury that makes you say that?
I just think any type of injury to your core section, I just think it needs time to heal and rest.
He's 23 years old, so if they come out and they say, hey, he's ready to go, he's 100%, we gave him all the tests, all the imaging looks good, you still don't want him to play just because it'll make you feel better?
No, I mean, if that's what they feel, I trust this group. I mean, it's not like in the past I wouldn't trust them, but I trust Dan and them. So if they say he's good to go, then he's good to go. But, if it's questionable, well, there is some doubt there. I mean, you don't want to see him get re-injured.
Of course. And I just wanted to kind of unwrap that point because I also trust this group, and I think we're actually on the same page. But I'm kind of at this point, like, we're not going to know. And if they tell us he's fine, he's fine. If he's not, he's not. And I don't think they're going to play him because I think Adam Peters is going to be involved in this decision. I'm sure Jaden's mom, who's also his agent, is probably involved in this decision. And that, by the way, is typical. The player and their team get a say as well, especially someone as high profile. And obviously, if they don't want to play, they can't go out there. So I think that we have to trust them, and it sounds like you do, and I do. But I think it's more interesting, the other part of what you said. Why do you think, and why are you confident? I'm not doubting it. I'm just asking you to expound. Why are you confident that they can beat Chicago with Marcus Mariota if Jayden is not ready to go?
I think Mariota. I mean, because he's the type of quarterback that they don't have to change much because of Jayden. Now, if Driscoll was the backup quarterback, then I think there would be more issues because you almost would have to change the way you call the game. But with Mariota, I think they'll call the game close to what they did with Jayden. Now, I also think they'll be able to run the ball against the Bears, and because you don't want Mariota throwing more than 20 or 25 times.
For sure. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the call, Rick. Anthony, I see the call sheet, and I have to ask you a question before I take any more calls. Is everyone just want to call in and talk about their feelings about Jayden Daniels' ribs? Is that what we have here? We asked for game predictions. I'm not trying to go at Rick because Rick also gave a game prediction. But everything you have down is so-and-so thinks Jayden's going to play or is not going to play.
Yeah, I mean, but if you want them to pivot to,
I want game predictions.
I think that's what it should be.
And it can be if Jayden plays, if that. Because I have a news flash for everyone, and I'm sorry to be this person on a Friday. I don't care about your feelings about Jayden Daniels' ribs. I just don't. I cannot possibly care about your feelings because his ribs don't care about your feelings. The doctors don't care about your feelings. They're going to make a medical decision based off of how he can move, how he can throw, can he perform the job, what is the re-injury risk, and how you feel about it as a fan, as a person who's not Jayden Daniels, as a person who's not Dan Quinn, as a person who's not Adam Peters, doesn't matter. And so I'm not going to waste everyone's time here on the radio listening to caller X, and I'm not going to say any names here. I'm just going to say, if you want to Like, I'm telling you, if you're on hold right now and that was your plan, is to have this be football therapy so you can talk about your feelings about Jayden Daniels' ribs, you're going to have to call another show today. Just hang up now if you're on hold and that was your thing. If you want to talk about how this game's going to play out, if Jayden's in or not, that's fine. That's what we're trying to do here. That's a good time. I'm up for it. I'm game because that's interesting. But I'm scared for Jayden Daniels' rib. We're all scared for Jayden Daniels' rib. Like, he's probably scared for his rib. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, like, they got the draft pick right. Their futures are on the line. It doesn't matter how any of us feel about it. And us being more or less scared and being whatever, I don't think he should play, doesn't impact how healthy he actually is. The rib does not hear you and go, Brenton Bowie, that was a made-up name, Brenton Bowie is scared. I feel better now. Or, I feel worse. I'm not going to work today so that Brenton Bowie doesn't have to watch Jayden Daniels play on Sunday. Not nobody. I'm sure somebody. I'm sure your friends, maybe your family, your kids, I don't know. Somebody might care about your feelings about Jayden Daniels' ribs and whether or not he should play. I don't. The doctors don't. Jayden Daniels doesn't. Dan Quinn doesn't. Adam Peters doesn't. And those people are the people that are going to make the decision. And I make the decision on what we talk about on this radio show. And I'm not doing rib fear talk. It's a silly way to spend our time. And I already spent too much time ranting on whether or not we should be talking about it, which the answer is we're not. Jeremy's in Baltimore, and he wants to talk about the game, so Jeremy's going to get to be on the show. Jeremy, thank you for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Thank you. I live in Baltimore. It's been a tough 25 years for me living up here as a longtime Washington supporter. Couldn't be more excited about, obviously, the quarterback situation, but more importantly, the ownership group, which I totally agree with you. I completely trust whatever decision they make. I do have one exception with what you mentioned, but I want to get to one point too. If this is not a knee injury or a ankle situation, if Jayden can throw and run, like, he should play. This is a huge game, right? That could have implications for a playoff tiebreaker situation. This is not an RG3 type situation where the man couldn't move, right? Like, so I totally trust whatever conversation Jayden is having with Adam Peters, the coach, the owner. What makes me uncomfortable, though, is when you mentioned his mom, the agent, would have input into this decision, which reminds me very much of, like, the previous situation, which was completely whack, right? Like, Jayden's mom shouldn't have any input into this conversation. If the man can throw the football without pain, and listen, he took a shot against the Giants in the ribs that could have predicated where we are right now. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
It didn't.
Another shot
it
in the
didn't.
ribs.
It's totally unrelated. He got folded up. Like, right. We all watched it happen. And every agent has a conversation with the general manager about their player. The fact that it happens to be his mom, who's a very competent and smart person, it's no different.
Well, it's just really odd that after Mariota threw his touchdown pass, that her response to him being injured was he's fine. Literally, it happened within minutes of that happening. But my greater point is probably consistent with what you're saying. Like, our defensive coaches their big thing, and Dan Quinn's big thing is we want to arrive violently, right? Like, this is a violent sport. Jayden can get hurt anyone could get hurt on the next play and be done for the year. I don't think having a sore core is going to make whether or not he gets injured on the next play any more relevant. So I think you and I agree, and I hope to see Jayden play, even if he's not 100%, if it's not going to put him at risk or give our team less of an opportunity to win. And I'll head out and
Jeremy, I think that's well said at the end there. That's the point. Is like, if it raises your chances to win more games in the long run, because you're not actually putting him at re-injury risk, and it helps you win this game, then he should play because it's football and he's better than Marcus. And somehow in a segment where we do this literally every week. Anthony, I'm so ready to cancel this segment. Typically we never get calls, and now we got a bunch of people who don't want to talk about the topic. So maybe we'll do, like, am I in a grouchy mood today or something? Or just people not following instructions? Is this me, or is this, do I need to check my attitude? or is this a lack of proper participation here?
I think people are taking whatever you say and basically going another way.
Yeah. And now, of course, they're going to want to fight me because I'm being antagonistic. I don't know what we're going to do next, but it's not whatever we just did for the last 12 minutes. To finish Friday on the Hoffman Show, Team 980 always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Nicki Jhabvala joining us coming up at 5 o'clock with the latest on Jayden Daniels, who practiced on Friday and is listed as questionable for the game. Just to be really clear, I obviously appreciate everyone calling in. I appreciate you listening to the show. I definitely want to try to talk about everything that, people want to talk about. But our opinion on whether Jayden Daniels or whether or not he's going to play is not based off any information that you need to make that decision. And thus, that's why I am not going to take call after call about people's opinions on something that we have no control over, nor can we have an informed opinion on, because we simply do not know the relevant medical information, nor are any of us really qualified probably as medical professionals. Maybe if you're a doctor out there and you are, great. But like, since considering nobody knows his injury, nevertheless, how he responded to the treatment and the workout, it is not worth our time to sit here and speculate on whether he should or shouldn't play. It is fun and much less, and because it's someone's like medical situation, I don't think that's really appropriate to speculate on. Who's going to win a football game? Now we're talking. So let's try this again. Finish Friday at 301-230-0980. Who's going to win? It can be if Jayden plays this, if Marcus plays that. But I need a score prediction and maybe a reason why you think it's going to go that way. Let's go to Matthew in DC. Matthew, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, thanks, Craig. And I understood the assignment, so I've got it covered.
Let's go.
I believe the Washington Commanders are going to win. And they're going to do so because Caleb Williams has had two different types of games, home and away. Now, granted, his away games were earlier in the season, but he is vulnerable away from the stadium generally. For example, of his 5 interceptions, 4 were thrown with only 2 TDs on away games. So I feel like there's a little bit of home and away opportunity. In addition, I think that our team is solid and competent enough on all phases that even though the Bears probably have the stronger defense of all of the units that are going to be on the field, they're not so much stronger than our offense, that our offense won't be moving the ball and scoring. And we will be able to, I believe, limit the Bears' points. And so my prediction for the score is actually 31-14.
Wow, that is a big Commanders win. Matthew, thank you for understanding the assignment, and great stuff on the road away splits. It's interesting. Some of those numbers are technically affected by what happened in London, which was obviously away, a long way away from Soldier Field. But he was technically the home team, and so the touchdown numbers that he put up on Jacksonville count towards the home numbers, and those away numbers obviously would look better if you count that London game, but also that's against the Jags. So I do think it's a relevant thing, though. Like, not neutral site. Can the Commanders have a good home crowd on Sunday? That would be cool. Would love to see that. Let's go to someone who's not quite as optimistic, it sounds like. Let's go to Ed. Ed, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hello, Craig. I understand Simon also, and in my opinion, with the way Caleb has played the last 3 weeks, he has improved significantly. They have the better roster. They have the much better defense. And even though they're missing 2 key guys in their secondary, I believe context is very important. And Mariota had one of the best games of his career against one of the worst defenses in the NFL based upon all the injuries Carolina had. I don't expect him to perform nearly at that level if he should start. And I think the Bears have turned over just about everything they played. They played Houston, and they held Houston down. That means they really have a decent, a top third of the league defense. I don't see any way Washington can keep this thing close if Mariota starts. So I got my final score is 34-17 Bears.
All right, Ed, thanks for the call. And I think there's a lot of valid points in there. There's no doubt Chicago's defense is really good. I think it's interesting, though, like, what if I told you, here's a fun, what if I told you that in most rush rankings, yards, EPA per play, whether you want to go advanced stats or non-advanced stats, regular stats that people are more used to, the Commanders and Bears defenses are pretty right next to each other in all of them. I believe one's 12th and one's 13th in EPA per play or something like that. So you can get the Bears on the ground. And to me, that's the hope for Washington. They have to get their run game going. And if they do, I think they have a really great shot. If they don't, and you got to pass on a team that is the second best against the pass in the league EPA per play, with especially Marcus Mariota, Whoa, now we're talking about a different kind of challenge. Let's go to Aveen in DC. Aveen, you're on the Hoffman Show on a Finish Friday. Who you got and why?
Hey, Craig, I've got us winning 27-20 if Jaden plays. I've got us losing 27-20 if Mariota plays. I think we'll be able to run the ball, like you said. I think the key is staying ahead of the sticks. I'm just a little worried if Mariota plays, if he's got some sacks, some turnovers in him. But I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this. I think this is really a game to see, has our defense gotten better? Can we be more of a middling defense? You know, the Bears have played their past 3 games, the 3 teams with, I think they're dead last in EPA, bottom 3 teams in EPA, defensive EPA or DVOA. And I'm just interested, is our defense going to look more like that? Or, you know, can we show that we've gotten better? You know, can we pressure him? Can we speed him up? That Bears offensive line isn't great. Can we force some turnovers? Like, I think this is a game for the defense to show itself.
I 100% agree that the opportunity is there. Aveen, thanks for the call. I 100% agree that the opportunity is there. Now, if Mariota's turning the football over and putting them in bad spots, like that's obviously not going to be ideal. And I think we're going to have to look at this game as a whole on Monday when we break it down. But I do think that this, like, here's the thing that I feel good about. I feel good that the Commanders can come up with a plan that makes life difficult for the Bears offensively. My fear is that they are good enough to overcome that. That when the opportunities present itself, when Joe Witt Jr. decides, hey, this is the right time to go on a blitz and let's leave some one-on-ones on the outside, that DJ Moore can make some stupid, gigantic play. That Keenan Allen, who is a very, very good route runner, is the kind of player that does give me a little bit of concern against a Benjamin St. Juste. And he's obviously enormously tall. And so getting him on Sainer still doesn't feel like the right matchup either. Like, where does Forbes have a role in this game? DJ Moore ate him alive last year. He's big, he's powerful, and he was able to kind of push Forbes around a little bit. So I think there's a lot of variables in this game defensively for Washington, including, by the way, the return of Dorrance Armstrong, who is questionable as well. Jordan McGee is back this week. So does he play? And if he does that push Luvu onto the edge more? So there's some interesting wrinkles that Joe Witt Jr. can throw at the Chicago Bears offense. But I think that the opportunity is there to prove that you're not elite. They're not going to go and shut out the Bears. I don't think, obviously. I mean, that would be crazy if they did. First shutout they would have had since 1991. But if they can go hold them to 21 points, can the offense get 24? Like, that to me is kind of where this game is probably going to lie if Marcus Mariota's playing. If Jaden's playing, then, well, maybe they can get up to 27, 28, 29, somewhere in there. If they were to score 30 on this Bears team, then this offense is gross because they haven't given up more than 21 in 12 straight games. Maybe without Brisker and without Gordon, that's gettable, but we're going to find out on Sunday. We'll find out more of what went down in Ashburn today from Nicki Jhabvala next. The Washington Post Commanders beat reporter joins us for Not My Beat here on The Hoffman Show. Hour number 2 of the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. 5:30, we go around the NFL. Picks and analysis for every single game, and there's a lot of news, injury notes, all kinds of good stuff that will get you. Make sure you're set for your fantasy lineups this weekend. All of that coming up in just a little bit. 6 o'clock, our pick 6 at 6. I definitely know who I'm picking first if I have the first pick this week, so that's fun. We'll get there coming up at 6 p.m. Right now, though, let's get to it. The latest on Jayden Daniels from someone who was out there in Ashburn today and is every single day. It is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Joining us today, Nicki Jhabvala, Washington Post, very much her beat. And the Commanders beat got a little extra on a Friday. You got to talk to Jayden Daniels today. We think he's going to wind up being listed as questionable here, Nicki. What have you made of how they've kind of handled this process this week, and how I don't want to say when I ask it, is it legitimate? Like, of course they're going through the steps, but how much of this is show and how much of this is, hey, maybe the kid is going to play on Sunday after all?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Dan Quinn said this was the process all along. The plan all along was, to give him a couple of days of rest and then see if he can go Friday, and push him to really see if he'd be capable of sustaining a full game, and then assess him from there. So I wasn't terribly surprised. I kind of thought that was how it would go. I thought, the one comment that gave me a little bit of pause about his availability this week was when Quinn said he would be week to week. He didn't say day to day. He said week to week. So I think that's kind of what's thrown me on all this. And, of course, they're not specifying anything about the nature of the injury, just a rib area injury. So the fact that he was able to participate in team drills fully, he was listed as limited today, but he was, Quinn said, involved in all the team drills. That's certainly a good sign. I think the more telling thing will be to see how he feels tomorrow, and then going into Sunday. So if I had to guess, they haven't announced it yet, but if I had to guess, I would think they'd probably list him as questionable and then take it all the way up to the game as close as they can.
How risky is it to take it to Sunday without making a move tomorrow with potentially activating Sam Hartman as the third quarterback off the practice squad and then just having him be the emergency guy? Like, is that a telltale they'll do, or is because he would be the third guy anyway, right, you just not worry about it and you take, like, is the gamesmanship, I guess, more valuable, or you think that they'll go through with that and we might find out tomorrow one way or the other?
If they don't elevate Sam Hartman, that's probably a good sign. It's not the only sign. I don't think we can infer, totally based off that, sure, they could go with two quarterbacks into the game. And like you said, just leave it at that. But yeah, if they don't elevate him, it's probably a good sign for Jaden, but they could, of course, still elevate him, and then make Hartman ultimately inactive and have Jaden still play. So yeah, I mean, I think every move will be magnified, scrutinized over these next 48 hours, but yeah, they're keeping this one close to the vest for sure.
Yeah, Nicki Jhabvala, Washington Post, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Do you think deep down they kind of want this to go one way or the other? I mean, I guess, like, obviously there's a risk. Hey, he looks like he's fully healthy, but then they're holding their breath. Like, in a way, do you think that there's anybody, whether it's Dan, whether it's Adam up in the front office, that is just like, man, I really hope that we just kind of, we don't have to lock him in a broom closet because he wants to play so bad and he feels fine, and that we just want to take this out another week? Or is that just not how these guys are wired?
Yeah, I don't think that's how these guys are wired. I think they want to be smart about it. You don't want to put them out there and then ultimately lose them to a re-injury and have them, lose multiple weeks. They are in a good spot on the team. Marcus did play well. I don't know that his performance can necessarily be replicated to that degree. I thought he played really well, but they're not going to face that Panthers defense every week, unfortunately. So I think they want him to play, but they want to be smart about it too. And I think, if Jaden had his way, sure, he would love to be out there every single week. But I do get the sense that he's smart enough too to know, like, if he can't do everything that he's capable of, it really doesn't benefit the team a whole lot. He's a great quarterback. He's been great so far, but they want him at full strength for sure, or as strength as you can be at this point in the season.
So when you look at Marcus and what he did last week, obviously it's greatly enhanced by that Carolina defense, but he also did a lot of good stuff. How do you look at this matchup differently if it's Marcus versus Jayden, specifically against the Chicago Bears defense and the caliber they are?
Yeah, I think it's a lot different. I mean, that's a good defense. It's a really good defense. And I think the offense has only gotten better, especially over recent weeks as they've made those adjustments, and Caleb has really blocked the result. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough challenge no matter what. I think probably everybody would feel more comfortable if Jayden were back there and healthy enough to play like he normally does. He's a good player. He's a smart player, makes good decisions. Not that Marcus doesn't all the time. I just think, it's a small sample size too, right? We're talking about, 6+ games really, since he didn't play the majority of the last game. But in that, he's just shown consistency throughout, which over the course of Marcus's career, you haven't always seen that. But I also think it's, a lot of these guys that they all have more reps with Jayden too. Marcus hasn't taken one since, the start of the regular season. I think that all factors in. Jayden can do things that most other quarterbacks can't. That's the reality of it. He's young, hasn't played a whole lot yet, but I think that's part of what's been so remarkable about what he's shown is he seems to be one of those rare ones.
So obviously, Nicki Jhabvala is with us here from the Washington Post for Not My Beat today on the Hoffman Show. When you talk to folks in the building, you look at the games yourself. We know that Brian Robinson in that running game is going to be really important to either quarterback. How confident are you that they can get the running game going against a Bears defense that is good against the run for as great as they've been against the pass, but they're definitely stronger against the pass and have given up some real explosive plays on the ground this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly important if, Jayden plays and, he's healthy enough to play, but, obviously is just recovering from the rib thing. You're going to need all the help to support him, and that run game is going to be super important. So you hope they can kind of set the tone early, similar to the way they did against Carolina. I know the defense really did that. Dante Fowler, who had a heck of a game. But establishing the run early and sticking with it consistently, I think is always going to be important, especially against a defense like this.
And then on the other side, when you look at trying to slow down Caleb Williams and this evolved version of the Bears offense, you could say they've evolved, they've gotten a lot better, or you could say they've faced the Jaguars and the Panthers and the Titans and a bunch of really bad football teams. How much do you buy the improvement from Chicago, and what's the confidence level on the defensive side of the ball around the building as you've talked to guys throughout the week?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows that he's a heck of a talent. I mean, there's no denying that. He didn't have the immediate impact that Jayden did, and I know they talked about having that meeting with Shane Waldron and the team's leadership council, and then they made some adjustments to the offense, and it seems better tailored to what Caleb does well. But he's, even without it, I think he's still a force behind there, and the more he sees as a quarterback, the harder it's going to be to face him. So I don't think they can. I don't think you can go into it saying, oh, he just played two pretty bad teams and that's why he had good games. I think he's actually a quality player and he's progressing quite a bit. But yeah, he's going to be a challenge. It's like any mobile quarterback, it's you got to find a way to contain him and not let him out of the pocket, but and limit the explosives in the pass game. And it's always going to be a challenge.
And then the last thing I'm kind of wondering, and they're pretty tight-lipped over there, but who knows what you've been able to get out of folks. You're good at the reporting thing, Nikki, so I'm going to see what you've got. Is how turned up is the aggressiveness dial defensively? Because I think you can make an argument that you want to make Caleb just be really patient, beat you from the pocket, invite them to run the football a little bit, play these two high structures, and be a patient version of this defense that's worked at times this year. I think you could also make an argument that Caleb Williams, while he will throw down the field, has not been very good at it as a pro, and that inviting him to do that, while it comes with risk, is something that might pay off. How aggressive do you anticipate Joe Witt Jr. being with the blitzes, the coverage structures, and the defense in general against Williams?
Yeah, I think they could bring a good bit of pressure. We saw how that sort of rattled Caleb Williams in the first few games, so I would expect them to, pick off some of the things that worked well for those teams early on. I think I would imagine they're studying, the whole gamut of his film this season to see, what are some of the weaknesses that he's still dealing with, even with the adjustments, even with some of the improvement that he's made over these last few weeks, and really try to exploit that. But yeah, to me, when coaches talk a lot about aggressiveness, yes, it's partly about really pressuring and trying to disrupt the quarterback. It's also about the players just playing confidently in the system, and I think that's where a lot of the Commanders' issues have been on defense up until this point, is just communication and kind of getting in their own way. And if they can play soundly on their own, I think they got a really talented group. The problem over these last, 7 weeks when they've arrived is they just kind of step on their own foot, and communication breakdowns or blown coverages or missed tackles. But if they can play soundly, then I think they should, be pretty good and hold their own against Caleb.
Going to be fun to watch. Sunday, of course, Bears, Commanders. Nicki Jhabvala will be there covering it for the Washington Post. Nikki, I will see you in the press box. Have a great rest of your weekend until then. And thanks for your time, as always, here on the radio.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Nicki Jhabvala with us here on the Hoffman Show. Always appreciate her time. When we get back, Anthony, we have a hole in the show. Do you have any thoughts on what we should do? We could talk about Jordan Poole going bananas, and then the Wizards losing anyway. Is there anything else from the football side of things that we want to do before we go around the NFL at 5:30?
No, I mean, unless we wanted to we didn't make our pick yesterday.
Yeah, which probably is a good thing because we probably would have got it wrong.
Now with Puka back, I was thinking about the Rams.
Thinking about is different than 100% would have picked.
Yeah, you're right. I was probably going to go with the Vikings.
Yeah, you were. We can definitely talk about Thursday Night Football a little bit. We'll get to Thursday Night Football, and we'll get to the Wizards game next. Then we'll go around the NFL coming up at 5:30 here on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at 5:30, around the NFL. We will pick every single game, except for the one that already happened this week, which was a bit of a shocker last night, Anthony. But I'll tell you what, if I bet on that game, I would have been ticked. I didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of it, but obviously woke up this morning and saw the ending. The Rams escape Minnesota with a win against Minnesota. The game was in LA. 30-20 is the final score, thanks in large part to a very, very controversial call at the end of the game, where Sam Darnold clearly has his face mask yanked at, and instead they didn't call it. So that sealed the win for the Rams. And they're 1-4 before their bye. They're now 3-4 coming out of it. The Vikings were 5-0. Now they're 5-2. And Matthew Stafford throws 4 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp. By the way, if anyone was listening this time yesterday, I was trying to find a trade for Cooper Kupp. For someone so I could activate Puka Nacua. If you're in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League, I'm going to let you know Wan'Dale Robinson is available on the waiver wire because I just had to make a move. And I'm glad I did because Puka Nacua last night came back and looked like Puka Nacua. 7 catches, 106 yards. Kupp, 551 and a touchdown. Kyren Williams, 23 carries for 97 yards. And in total, 4 touchdowns on a 25 for 34 day from Matthew Stafford. And Anthony, I saw this crazy stat yesterday that when Nacua, Kupp, and Williams are on the field together, which has barely happened, obviously, this year, and it barely happened last year. But in the last, I think it is 2 years, was when they did the cutoff here. It was like 300-something snaps, which is a couple games worth. Like, that's significant. They were at plus 0.18 EPA, which would be like the best offense in the league or like one of the top 5 offense in the league over the past like 2 decades.
That's insane. Has it resulted in wins as well, though?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely way better in those games. Like, their offense is when those 4 dudes are together, when Stafford, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp are on the field, the Rams offense is still as good as any offense in the NFL. And I think that's worth tracking because the NFC West is kind of not very good with the 49ers. Heads are and limbs are being chopped off at every turn.
Yep.
Are the Rams all of a sudden going to be the team that wins a bad NFC West, but they win it as a team that just got in a 1-4 hole early and is actually good come playoff time? If Kupp and Nacua stay healthy and Kyren Williams stays healthy and Stafford stays healthy, like I think the answer is probably yeah. This Minnesota Vikings offense, by the way, had been excellent, and they held them to 20. So the defense has figured some things out too. It's worth mentioning the Vikings did have the Lions hangover. I think it's the last 5 teams that the Lions have played have lost the next week, and the Vikings had to do it going Sunday to Thursday.
Oh,
so that's pretty rough. But yeah, man, that is the Rams are a scare. They're as scary of a 3-4 team as you could possibly have.
Yeah, especially considering I guess the Rams were getting called for Cooper Kupp. Things weren't looking that good, and now sitting at 3-4, the West sort of kind of up for grabs. Matthew Stafford still being Matthew Stafford. Like, he went out there and put up 4 tuds on a very good Vikings defense.
One of the best in the league so far this year.
Man, and he made it look easy, sort of kind of like. But it also helps when you have a Kupp, when you have a Puka Nacua, and then you also have a run game behind Kyren Williams. So I would be scared. But if I'm the rest of the NFL and I have the Rams on my schedule, I would be a little nervous.
I am
especially
not
because of what you just said
them.
about their offense.
Yeah, I am just straight up not looking to play them. That's no thank you. I am good. I do not want to see the Rams at all if I am someone else. And we did forget to pick this game, and that's a bummer, although I think you did pick it on Wednesday.
You're lying. Are you serious, Craig?
You started to. I can't. Was that the one you backed off of?
I hope I did. Oh my gosh. Oh, no, yeah, I don't have them.
Okay, you backed off of it.
Woo!
Because you said Thursday night, and you're like, no, Thursday night's too weird.
Yep, it is weird. And look, great call, Anthony. Great call. I think that I know what's going to happen, Craig. I don't want to jinx myself, though, so I'm not going to say it. So don't ask me either.
What kind of radio is that?
Why would I tell you?
Because we're paid to do radio, Anthony.
I'm not going to tell you what I would just... I don't want to jinx myself, Craig. But if I come up short, I'll tell you that. If I fall short, Wednesday, let's revisit this conversation.
Hey, Siri. Siri. Next Wednesday at 5:30, remind me to ask Anthony what he was thinking on Friday.
Yes. Ooh, okay, Siri. Check you out.
Now we're going to do that. The other game that we had, well, there's a couple games I had an eye on last night, to be honest. The U.S. Women's National Team game, it was tied late, and they then the kids came through. Well, I guess Alyssa Thompson scored her first. She's 19 years old, banger. And then Jaden Shaw just nutmegged the entire Icelandic team and scored, and then Sophia Smith had another just ridiculous goal. So nice little 3-1 win on the victory tour. But that was after I got home from the Wizards game, where obviously we were broadcasting live yesterday. And, well, the Celtics, they're real good at basketball. How about that first quarter from Jordan Poole, though? Eh?
He had a pretty good game.
He did. And I think Jordan showed, like, hey, let's put the ball in his hands and let him cook. And when he can get cooking, great. The problem is nobody else can make a shot yesterday. And, you know, Jordan is 6 of 11 from 3. He had 17 in the first quarter. He only has 26 for the game. But not only 26 points, 4 assists, 4 steals, like, that's a good Jordan Poole game. I will take 26, 4, and 4 any day from Jordan Poole, no matter when the points are distributed, although you probably obviously need more second half consistency. The most consistent thing from a Washington person cannot be that there was someone who spilled beer courtside in the first and third quarters. What are we doing? We can't have beer spills happening more consistently from first to second half than scoring. However, Jordan did have 26. Kyle Kuzma, really rough day, shooting at 0-5. Didn't really do much else. Like, the bigger thing, like, okay, he had 12 points. He shot 6 of 16. 0-5 from 3. Kyle Kuzma cannot have 2 rebounds. That is not how this team can play. He is too important as a rebounder. Bilal, how about Bilal, the playmaker? 6 assists for Koulibaly in his season debut. Bub Carrington and Alex Sarr both start, the rookies. Sarr took 5 threes. I don't know that that's the shot diet they want from him, but we'll find out. The fact that he was willing to take them is good. 5 rebounds, had a couple of blocks. His one and only field goal was a dunk. But I also think you see, like, Keyshawn George played 20 minutes in this game. Jonas Valanciunas only plays 20 on his side of it. So, you know, if you're young and you're a part of this team's future, like, you're going to get at least 20 minutes a game. Sarr got 22, Carrington 26, and then Valanciunas, veteran they bring in to be a steady presence. He sure is. He's got 18 points on the day. Like, clearly he knows how to play basketball. And I do wonder how they mix and match, because maybe like Bub plays a little bit better with Jonas, something like that. The mix of youth and experience. But it's going to be interesting to watch how they manage the rotation. One injury note, Anthony, before anything that you took away from this one. Bub sprained his ankle late in that game. He's listed as probable for tomorrow against Cleveland. Also, I guess the final update. Eventually, I'll stop talking. But Dave Johnson, he is going to join us on game days this year. We didn't have time yesterday because we had played so many of our interviews for Media Day. But the Dave Johnson 3.0, third year that he's doing this with us, Game Day Dave, is returning. And I do now have in my inbox, Anthony, a trove of highlights from the preseason and last night's game. So I'm taking song suggestions on what Dave's song should be for this season.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Just think about it.
I got you.
Think about it. It's going to be hard. I mean, that first year we did the DJ Cool, like, that was sick.
Yeah, that was really good. Last year was good too, though.
Last year was good. Last year worked out. So I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but if you got suggestions, and give me a good reason why, you can email me, hoffmanshow.com/contact. You can tweet me at Craig Hoffman. You can send me an Instagram DM at hoffman.sports, or send a carrier pigeon and hope it winds up in the right place. Anything that you want to talk about from that game, Anthony? Or should we just take a break and get to around the NFL?
I'll just say Jason Tatum is really good.
Yeah, he is. That's a big man.
He got a lot to prove this season, man. And he started this season crazy.
What does he have to prove? He just won a title.
It's not necessarily he has to, it's more so stemming from his time in the Olympics this year.
Yeah.
I feel like he's taking this entire season personal.
Oh, he might.
Yeah.
He might feel like he
I'm
wants
not
to
saying
prove
he
something.
has something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, based
They
off the
ain't
first
taking
two
that
games,
ring away from him. He's great.
No,
By the way,
he's a champ.
he was probably my favorite in the starting five series. If you're not a fan of like Jason Tatum the person, then that tells me more about you than it does Jason Tatum, especially after watching the starting five show on Netflix. Okay, when we get back, we go around the NFL, picks and analysis of every single game in Week 8. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always alive as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, if you like, at the Team 980. And it is time to go around the NFL. We do this 5:30 each and every Wednesday. Or, sorry, every Friday, because it's Friday, Anthony. It's Friday. What? Did I get ahead of myself?
I think so, man. I think so.
That's for later. All right, let's get to it. Let's go around the NFL, starting with Eagles and Bengals, Anthony. Cincinnati favored by 2.5 in this one at home. Big old number, 47.5 is your total. I picked this one on Wednesday. I picked Cincinnati to cover. I don't think the Eagles are good. I don't think their defense is good. I think their offense can beat very specific defenses, which is to say, if you are a defense that plays a ton of man-to-man, it's pretty unimaginative, and is going to leave A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on islands outside, then Jalen Hurts can do what he needs to do. But this offensive line is not as good as it used to be, in part because Jordan Mailata is hurt. This offense, there's certain quarterbacks. I've heard Derek Klassen talk about this on the Athletic Football Show, and it's a really good point. There are certain quarterbacks, I should say, that it doesn't matter what offense they're in, it becomes their offense. And Jalen Hurts is starting to become one of those guys. Aaron Rodgers, doesn't matter. It's the Aaron Rodgers offense. Russell Wilson, it's kind of the Russell Wilson offense because they only make certain types of throws. They want certain plays in. They're not very willing to conform to what a coordinator wants to do. And Jalen just doesn't throw over the middle of the field a ton. He doesn't read stuff out great. His processing isn't elite. Now, if you give him a one-on-one, he's going to find it, and that dude can spin it. And the quarterback run stuff he's great at, so it's not like he's a useless quarterback. Jalen Hurts is a good player. But I think teams have kind of figured out the stuff that you don't do against him, and Lou Anarumo's no dummy, the DC in Cincinnati. I got the Bengals here, which would put them at 4-4. Be also their first home win of the season, which is kind of crazy. They're 0-3 at home and 3-1 on the road. And then the Eagles at 4-3. And then we'll obviously see where they're sitting in the NFC East because we got to see what happens in Washington and Dallas this weekend as well.
I think I'm going to go. So you're going with the Bengals, right?
That is correct.
I'm going to go with. I think I might lean with you, Craig. If you make the Eagles one-dimensional and you make Jalen Hurts, beat you, I think.
I am loading the hell out of the box.
Yeah, Saquon's not going to get off. Brian Robinson was not able to get off. They wanted to see if Jayden Daniels could beat them from the pocket. He did that.
And they've done that to a couple other teams, and either the quarterback beats them or they don't.
Yeah, I just don't trust their corners stink, though, Craig.
But I don't think they're going to put him out man-to-man.
But if you have so many people in the box, I feel as though it's going to end up turning into
They disguise coverage stuff well. Cincinnati's a grown-up defense.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I just can't get behind the corners. I think Saquon's gonna maybe break one, maybe two. I don't know. I'm going with the Eagles. I don't feel too good about this one though. I
shouldn't. The Eagles aren't good. And by the way, I don't feel great about betting on the Bengals defense. I do feel good about the Bengals offense though.
Yeah,
because
I don't think
the Eagles defense is very good either. Okay, interesting to watch this line throughout the week. Baltimore going to Cleveland. They're favored by 8.5. This was 10 when the week started. Also, we didn't know if DTR or Jameis was going to play. I believe it's going to be Jameis. So the Browns trying to get their first win at home. They're 1-6. Maybe play a little more inspired. I think there is something to feeling like you have a chance. And I think they knew with Watson out there, they did not have a chance. And I can't believe that the inspiration is going to come from Jameis Winston because it's not like he's great, but he's significantly better than what Watson was producing. So I'm picking Baltimore, obviously. They're the most inevitable team in the league. They've been the best team in the league for a couple of weeks now. But I do think it's interesting that Vegas thinks it's going to be closer as the week goes and it's more Jameis, or we're sure that it's Jameis versus what it was earlier in the week.
Yeah, I don't get Vegas either. They did just lose Amari Cooper, one of their better receivers. I don't really care too much for Jerry Jeudy. So I don't know what help Jameis is going to have outside of Nick Chubb. But again, like we said early in the week, the Ravens' deep run defense is pretty stout. So I don't expect a huge game from Chubb. But I expect the Ravens to continue to roll, and they're probably going to blow these guys out.
You better hope that there's a big game from Nick Chubb because he's in your fantasy lineup.
Yeah, I'm not even going to hold my breath, Craig.
Yep, that's because Anthony lost on Competition Wednesday. In case you missed that earlier in the week, he spun the wheel of mediocre punishment. It landed on a fantasy sub. I subbed Joe Mixon out of his lineup in favor of Nick Chubb because, well, I could have done worse by him, but I decided that was the friendly thing to do.
Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome. And we'll get to why that was extra friendly in a few moments when we get to the Texans game. Titans and Lions. Detroit's favored by 11. 1, 2, 3. Lions. Okay, Cardinals and Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa's return here, Anthony. Can they just get things going again offensively with him back in the lineup? They are favored by 4 in a game with a 46.5 total.
Hey, Tyreek said put him in your fantasy lineups. I think he's going to be a man of his word. I think he's going to go out there and have a huge day.
I do too.
And the Dolphins' defense has been pretty solid. It just the offense hasn't necessarily given them anything to get a win. So I think with Tua back, I think the defense will be able to catch a break, and they'll be able to go out here and get the dub.
Yeah, I actually think they will kind of pick up where they left off. Tua, maybe there's a little bit of rust, and obviously, Lord, hope that dude, that's the last we ever see of the concussions and everything, because it is scary. And his I understand his defensiveness on a human level, but also bro, these are very valid questions. And kind of the weird culture around the NFL with the Guardian caps. There's a part of me that's why isn't everyone wearing them? I don't know I don't know enough about the data to say that with my whole chest to be what is the significance, what percent more protection there are, but what are we doing? I do know that there's some new helmets that just got approved over the last couple of weeks. I saw a story that there's some new helmets either coming or that already are in the league that are basically the same as the Guardian caps in terms of the protection. So the helmet technology is getting better and better. But, assuming that everything's fine with Tua and we're just evaluating this through a football lens, his ability to get the ball out quickly and read things out very quickly is how that offense is built and designed. And so if he and Tyreek and Waddle are all on the same page, I think they can put up some big plays on this Cardinals offense or this Cardinals defense. Then we'll see if the Cardinals offense can strike back in return. Definitely better if Trey McBride is back than the version that we saw against Washington, but still, it is definitely been an odd season for Arizona. All right, 2 more games before we take a break and come back with some big hitters in the late window. Jets and Patriots first. The Jets are favored by 7.
I think I took them on Wednesday.
I think you did.
So they better go out there and win by more than 7.
It's at New England. I don't have a lot of faith in anything. The most faith I have is that every time I watch or that I see this game on my screen, because I'm going to be at Northwest Stadium watching this because I'm going to get there early. And every time that the Red Zone channel puts this on my screen, I'm going to be mad about it. Please. I want a red zone without Jets Patriots. I'm fine learning what happened in this game Monday at 5:30 when we review it.
I mean, that's more than possible.
This game sucks. We're done talking about it.
Yeah.
I'll take the Jets to win the game. I
Sure?
guess. No, of course not. I almost took the Patriots out of spite, but I shouldn't do that.
The Patriots?
No. You want to give them to me +7? I will. Falcons, Buccaneers. Atlanta, -2.5. They are favored. Obviously, the Bucs, terrible injuries on Monday night. Shorter week for them. I'm taking Atlanta here. They obviously had a great game against the Bucs offensively a couple of weeks ago on that Thursday nighter. I am a little scared that Todd Bowles makes some key adjustments, and all of a sudden it's a very different game. And I would assume they have somewhat of a different game plan. And Atlanta is so helter-skelter up and down that it's just hard to predict who they're going to be on a weekly basis, which is wild because that's what they've been the past bunch of years. And it's new coaching staff, new schemes, new everything. Same Falcons. But I'm going to take Atlanta here because I just don't think that they have enough offensively in Tampa without Evans and Godwin to help Baker be the best version of Baker.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Falcons as well for the same reason. I couldn't tell you one Buccaneers receiver, Sterling Shepard, former Giant. That's the only one I can really
He's
tell.
really there? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that's the Shepard. Yeah, Sterling Shepard.
Now I got to find out.
But yeah, outside of that, can't tell you a wide receiver. Can't tell you their cornerbacks because they're all banged up. I don't know who's playing for the Bucs. I'm going with the Falcons.
Their leading receivers this year, Sterling Shepard. He's got 8.
Nice.
8 catches on 12 targets in 5 games played. Jalen McMillan, he's got 6.
Okay, Jalen, yeah.
Trey Palmer.
Okay, I've heard the name.
Did you know that Tristan Wirfs is listed here because he has a fumble, I guess?
Oh, no. He got a completion.
A completion?
Yeah.
How does he?
Oh,
it's listed, but it's listed as 0 receptions. That's a weird bit. But he's got 9 yards. He's got 9 yards on 0 receptions.
It must have got called back.
ESPN, you have a stats issue here.
Yeah,
unless you don't get the credit because you fumbled. Anyway, the point is, Cade Otton is their leading actual receiver. He's a tight end.
Yeah, he was eating last week.
So we're gonna see how that goes. I got the Falcons. Okay, Colts Texans. One of the games we still have to talk about. Bills Seahawks, Chiefs Raiders, Cowboys 49ers. Some injury news there. So we'll get you caught up on everything and finish out the predictions next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. We're going around the NFL on the Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You'll hear from a Bears insider a little less than an hour from now on their side of the matchup. And, of course, our Pick 6 at 6 coming here in just a few minutes as we'll take a look at key players for the Commanders and Bears matchup on Sunday. But picking the rest of the games in the NFL, breaking them down as well, giving you the latest injury news and notes as it comes in, et cetera, et cetera. Packers and Jags is next up. We got two more games in the 1 o'clock window. Packers, Jags, Colts, Texans. This one we can be pretty quick. Anthony, 1, 2, 3, Packers? Okay, yeah. I am intrigued to see if Lawrence can get things going a little bit, but I do think the Packers have been excellent. The big thing here is just like, hey, Jordan Love, can you quit turning the football over?
That guy, Trevor Lawrence, stinks, Craig.
He doesn't stink.
Okay, you're right.
They stink.
Okay.
I will say, like, watch, because they obviously the Bears last game, so I watched a little of Lawrence. Dude, when that dude hits it, like when he just in timing and lets it rip, you ain't going to find someone who looks better playing the position. Like, the ball flies out of his hands. He's big, he's strong, he's mobile. You're just like, damn. And then you're going, damn, he threw it to the wrong team.
Yep.
Again. So, yeah. Colts and Texans. So, Joe Mixon, hey, you were going to have to root for him quietly when he was still in your fantasy lineup, Anthony. Now you don't have to worry about that. You can root for your boys in blue full on. Of course, C.J. Stroud trying to bounce back from the worst game of his career, 86 yards last time out. Houston, 5-point favorites in this one at home. These two teams do not like each other. Anthony, who you got?
I got the Colts, man. I got the Colts. I think this time around, the game plan should not be to let Joe Mixon go off. The game plan should be to stop that guy and force CJ to beat you. I don't think he's having all that good of a year. Like, yes, he has a couple of games where he's put up some numbers.
1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 picks.
Yeah, but based off what we saw last year, especially the second half, also what I saw last year in the final week of the season where he just demolished them, we haven't seen that, CJ. So that's who I want to see. Also, they still don't have Nico Collins, so I think that works in the Colts' favor. So that's why I will force CJ to beat the Colts. I'm going with the Colts.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the right game plan. Like, can C.J. Stroud beat you without Nico Collins? The answer is yes, but that's the better bet than just letting Joe Mixon and this running game beat you, because they've got a couple guys who can run the rock, especially if they're in supporting roles, and then Mixon's kind of their main guy. I'm still going to take Houston here at home.
Okay.
I think Stroud is Stroud's not having 2 bad games in a row, not like that. So I think there's a bit of vengeance here. I think that's the kind of game that makes you kind of splash some cold water on your face and lock in. I'm going to go Houston at home for the win. Saints, Chargers, not much to talk about here. We're still waiting to see, technically, I think, which quarterback is playing for New Orleans. It is likely Spencer Rattler. They will get Chris Olave and Taysom Hill back, so that is definitely interesting. But you know, as Carr is listed as doubtful, it's probably the Spencer Rattler show. Defensively, they have fallen off a cliff. Offensively, it's not just the skill guys. Their offensive line is like fundamentally flawed after losing their center earlier in the year. I'm going to take the Chargers at home to beat the Saints.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers as well. I would be shocked, though, if Taysom Hill gets a bulk of the reps. I think you got to squeeze him in. You got to put him into the game plan. Like, he changes things, even though he is a gadget player.
Yeah, I don't know about the bulk of the reps.
Well, yeah, maybe not the bulk. But
I think at some point you have to be like, hey, we got this rookie. Let's see what happens. But you can definitely make his life a lot easier with Taysom Hill. Yeah. All right, Bills and Seahawks. By the way, Anthony, do you know who the NFL's leading passer is?
Josh Allen?
No, it's the other guy. Geno Smith.
Wow.
Almost has 2,000 yards already on the season. 1985 is the number that he has. 15 yards, he'll hit 2,000. But I am taking Buffalo here on the road. They're favored by 3. And I am taking the Bills because, as I've talked about earlier in the week, I think the Bills are on a streak where they could look like the best team in football for a couple of weeks here. Josh Allen just gets on these heaters, especially after they have bad games. He had a bad game a couple weeks ago, and they're starting to look a lot better. Obviously, trounced the Titans last week. Seahawks are way better than the Titans, but I'll take Buffalo on the road.
What's the word on DK Metcalf?
Ooh, that's a good question, Anthony.
Because he's the only person that would, swing the needle a little bit for the Seahawks. I still think I'm leaning towards the Bills.
He is listed as doubtful.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Bills. I think them acquiring Amari Cooper is really going to be a huge difference maker for Josh Allen. I'm actually trying to get him in fantasy football, so if anybody's listening out there and you have Amari Cooper on your fantasy team, trade him to me, please.
Panthers and Broncos. Bryce Young is back. Andy Dalton's out with a thumb injury. He's not the only one. Deontay Johnson is out. Actually, I'm going to read the Panthers injury report. This is how bad it is. DJ Wanham, linebacker, out. Jordan Fuller, safety, put on injured reserve. Nick Scott, safety, out. Jaden Crumedy, their defensive tackle, he got put on IR. Clowney, questionable. Another linebacker, questionable. Another linebacker, questionable. Defensive end, questionable. Corner, questionable. Tight end, questionable. Andy Dalton, doubtful. Jonathan Brooks, running back, out. James Robinson, safety, out. Another offensive lineman, doubtful. Thielen, put on injured reserve. Deontay Johnson, out.
You forgot one.
Who?
Chance of winning this game, doubtful.
1, 2, 3. Broncos.
Yes.
You didn't even know who the other team was.
No.
You forgot. Chiefs and Raiders. Kansas City favored by 9.5. Now, remember, last time these two teams played, Christmas last year, upset in Las Vegas. Or I should say upset. It was in Kansas City, I believe, because I think the Chiefs have never lost at Allegiant Stadium, including the last time the Chiefs played there, which was not against the Raiders. It was in the Super Bowl. Kansas City favored by 9.5. I got them Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. Even though the Chiefs haven't looked the best, they are still 6-0, and they continue to find ways to win games. I think the defense also is very good, so I think whoever's at quarterback is going to have a long day on Sunday.
Yeah, and we don't know who's going to be at quarterback. That's the fun of the Raiders every single week. All right, obviously we will pick the Bears and Commanders game at the end of the show. Cowboys, Niners, and then Giants, Steelers to wrap up here. The Cowboys and Niners, this matchup was a lot more fun to be Sunday Night Football when the best players were actually going to play in it. Micah Parsons out for this game with the ankle. And then on the Niners side of it, Jawan Jennings, who was somehow their number one receiver, out. And then Jordan Mason listed as questionable. Kittle and Samuel questionable as well for the weekend. So, yeah, a lot of star power missing in this one. The Niners are favored by 4.5, Anthony. Who you got?
Wow. It's a lot going on there, Craig.
Yeah, I don't know who I have in this game. I kind of can't believe the Niners are favored.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh, yeah, the Cowboys aren't good either.
I think I'm going to go with the 49ers just because they have Kyle Shanahan. He's the better coach. I'm not even going to look at the players on the field. Everybody's banged up. I'm going to look at who's coaching.
That's honestly a great way to do it because the Cowboys have struggled for multiple years, going back to when DQ was there, with that Shanahan run game, and Zimmer has got by it as well. So we're picking Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Giants and Steelers on Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh 6-point favorites at home. This is going to be a grotesque football game, Anthony. The total is 36.5.
Ugh. After what Russell Wilson just did last week?
Yeah, what are the chances he's going to do it again?
Well, or they just got, the steel curtain pitching a shutout maybe. Like,
it's possible.
Maybe
Giants,
that's it.
Here's what I've said about this game all week. The Giants are going to cover this game. Because the Steelers, look, here's the Steelers, when you doubt them, they go and win. When you're like, oh, the Steelers got this, they make it way more interesting than they should.
True.
And they still win. But you're like, am I supposed to believe in you?
Yeah.
And the Giants, just when you think they're dead, will put on a performance to make you go, I don't know, they're kind of scrappy. Giants will cover. Steelers will win. So mark down Steelers for the purposes of our picks.
I got you.
All right. That's our trip around the NFL. When we get back to the Commanders and Bears, pick 6 time. Do I have the first pick or do you?
You have the first pick.
Well, then I know who I'm picking, and it's the most obvious thing in the world. So Brian Robinson and 5 other players that we put in the spotlight next on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show, final hour here on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at 6:30, Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune gives us some insight onto the game. He's also the host of the Take the North podcast, which is our Odyssey sports podcast up in Chicago. Does a great job with that. You'll hear some of our conversation coming up at 6:30. Right now, though, it is 6 o'clock on a Friday, and the Commanders, good gracious, the Commanders are playing. What, Anthony? Don't look at me like that.
Oh my gosh, the Commander. Ron Rivera is not our head coach anymore, Craig.
I know he is not.
He has been gone for 10 months.
It is Friday. It is 6 o'clock. I have done 3,472 hours of talking this week.
Okay.
My mouth is. I need a little water.
There you go. There you go.
Commanders. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Peter Piper picked a Piper Piper. There's a game with a burgundy and gold team. Just hit the button, Anthony.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, on Fridays, here's what we do. Instead of the biggest storylines, we kind of try to predict the biggest storylines. Which players do we think are going to be the most impactful in the game on Sunday? Quarterbacks are ineligible. We can pick players from either team, and I've already told you that I'm going to start with the first overall pick with
number 1,
Brian Robinson. I did think about in the break getting a little cutesy and picking Austin Eckler, but there is nothing like the down-in, down-out domination of a smash-mouth running back who's just going to keep you on schedule. And that is whether Jayden Daniels plays or especially if Marcus Mariota plays. Because Jayden has shown a propensity on the rare times that the Commanders' offense has been behind the chains this year to be able to get them out of it. And sometimes it's with his legs. Sometimes it is with his arm. Sometimes it's just a little bit of both, like a little step over a defender who's rushing and let's go find a guy in the flat or down the field, or it's 3rd and 13. Let me throw a ball 60 yards in the air to Terry McLaurin down to the 5-yard line. Like, he's done it all. If it's Marcus Mariota, you got to make sure that you are on schedule. Keep the playbook open. Keep the defense honest. Keep them out of some more exotic blitz looks. And I think that it's going to be essential that Brian Robinson has a big day. I also think he can have a big day. Chuba Hubbard, big day. A lot of other backs. Bless me, Anthony.
I was looking right. I looked left. I said, hold up. Yeah, bless you, Craig.
Knocked my camera focus out. Can't be having that. Anyway, Brian Robinson should be able to run a lot. He's number 1. I sneezed in the middle of it. No achoo matter. Brian Robinson, number 1.
Yeah, I think that was the obvious one, Craig.
Number 2.
I think this was sort of kind of obvious as well. And if you guys know, with our pick 6, we don't only have to pick players from our team. We also can pick players from the opposing team. And the guy I have circled is that boy, DJ Moore. I think last year,
he's just caught another pass on Ron Rivera's defense, actually.
Oh, you saw that too? I did too.
Jack Del Rio just got fired again.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, this guy, he went for 8 catches, 230 yards, 3 TDs on just 10 targets. So we know how explosive, how dynamic he can be against our cornerbacks. And it didn't matter who was checking him. BSJ, Emmanuel Forbes, Kendall, it did not matter if it was man, zone. We cannot let this guy be too explosive and kill us the way he did last year. And it also sucks that we're wearing the same exact jerseys against the team we wore those jerseys against last year.
Yes, I think that is correct. I think that DJ Moore is a fantastic pick because he and frankly Keenan Allen are guys that I think can really hurt Washington. Both guys are great. Good. Or Allen's case, a great route runner. Moore just is the physical kind of specimen that sometimes has given this defense a lot of problems. And yeah, that's the thing that scares me the most. Like more than Chicago's defense against Washington's offense, I'm scared of Chicago's playmakers, and especially because I think the best thing to do with the quarterback is to give him some chances. Like I think the best thing you can do with Caleb is kind of make him beat you, especially deep. He has been really good, really efficient. Like his heat map chart, Belichick did a whole thing on this on Inside the NFL the other night, and you look at the next gen stats and the completion chart. Like there ain't a lot of green dots down the field, man. And so, he has layered a couple balls deep, but I think he's 5 of 27 on balls this year, past 20 yards in the air. So, do you want to risk that if BSJ's out there on DJ Moore? Like, I don't know. Mike Sainristil on a guy like Keenan Allen who's 6'3", like that scares me. So I don't know how Joe's going to play this. I think it's really interesting, and I think DJ Moore, obviously, as a guy who is not having as good of a year. His route tree this year compared to, dude, I remember seeing, like, if you look at his route tree last year on paper, it looked like you gave like you gave a monkey like some kind of drug to make him really hyper. Pick your drug of choice if you have knowledge of those things, and an Etch-a-Sketch. And this year, it looks like you gave a 4-year-old some Quaaludes and an Etch-a-Sketch. Very different route trees. Yeah. That's the worst analogy I've ever made on this show.
Yeah, I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together, and I think I know what you're getting at.
A lot of squiggly lines on one, not a lot of squiggly lines on the other. Very, very simplified, a lot easier. And that is the one thing that I think gives me hope for both sides of the ball. The Chicago coordinators are kind of predictable. Now, they've been very good at some of the stuff they're predictable at, and execution's the name of the game, but I do think that it makes game planning a little bit easier. Okay, I'm also going to pick a Chicago Bear number 3.
Number 3.
In fact, can I pick 2, Anthony?
Sure.
Okay, I don't think they're going to be on your list. I'm going to pick Josh Blackwell. Do you know who Josh Blackwell is?
He is the Bears starting left tackle.
No, that is incorrect. Do you know who Elijah Hicks is?
He's the Bears starting left tackle.
That is incorrect, Anthony.
Guard.
That is the two gentlemen who will start at nickel and safety instead of Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker this weekend. I think it is a good day for the Commanders if you know their names by the end of it. They're the dudes that Tony Romo's circling going, this guy just got knocked out the club because Ben Sinnott came around on a block and carried him off the sideline. Sam Cosmi's pulling around and getting to these guys. Like, Nick Allegretti smushed one of them in the hole. If you know their names because they're missing a bunch of tackles in the run game, my number 1 guy, Brian Robinson Jr.'s having a really good day. They don't blitz a lot. Gordon's the guy they blitz with. So how is Josh Blackwell as a blitzer? They rely on their safeties in the run game. Brisker's great at it. How's Elijah Hicks? They have, these two guys are apparently solid players. I was texting with one of my buddies up in Chicago. Like, they've got some depth, but they're not nearly the run players that Gordon, who's one of the best in the league as a nickel against the run, and Brisker, who's one of the best safeties in the league, period, are. This Chicago Bears defense has been super stout. Those two dudes are an enormous part of it. And so knowing that you still have Jalen Johnson on the outside and a lot of really good players on the field for that Chicago defense, can you exploit the ones that aren't? Whether it's getting Terry inside and getting a couple matchups against Blackwell and hitting some stuff there, whether it's a guy like Luke getting more involved, OZ getting more involved. There's a lot of ways you can do it, but I think specifically in the run game, can you run towards the side where those dudes are and take advantage of some backups on the field? So Josh Blackwell and Elijah Hicks. Didn't think that's where we were going to go, but those are 2 key names that I'm watching for, and those are together number 3 in our pick 6. That means I've got 1 more. Anthony's got 2 to round it out coming up next. But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. We'll close out the hour with Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune coming up in about 15 minutes here on The Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And amidst our Pick 6 at 6, where we are giving you the 6 players, or in this case 7, because I cheated and picked 2 for my number 3 pick. We're picking up the 6 players that we think will have the biggest impact in the game on Sunday. Anthony, you are up with number 4. Who you got?
Number 4.
Number 4, Craig. So the Bears have this guy on their team that used to be a former Washington player. He goes by the name Montez Sweat.
That's where he went? I'm just kidding, everybody. I was here. I know. How's he doing this year, Anthony?
He has 2.5 sacks on the season. But I think when players play their former teams, they tend to, try to get off, sort of kind of make them personal games. And I'd rather that not be the case. So my fourth guy, or our fourth guy, Andrew Wiley, I think he has a huge matchup. We've seen also Montez Sweat versus Wiley in camp. We see the problems Montez Sweat causes. So I think it's going to be on Wiley and, Cliff to, try to keep Montez Sweat in check, maybe using the running backs to chip, maybe even having a tight end over there to, help out, or simply having Sam Cosmi also, bump over a couple of times to help. But I think keeping him in check is definitely going to be huge for whoever's at quarterback's success.
I definitely think that there will be a lot of help towards Montez Sweat. I mean, he has had a good season. He is, PFF-wise, in total, he's grading out of 67, so he's in the green this year. Pass rush grade, 66. That's in the green as well. Run defense, 62. He's just solid across the board, which is it's actually his worst season since his rookie year, technically via PFF grade, but it's, that's all relative. Pressure-wise, he's got the 2.5 sacks. They've got him on PFF with 18 total hurries, pressures total, the 3 sacks and then 15 hurries. Batted down a couple of balls as well. And he does mostly, to your point, line up in the same spot. It's worth noting that a couple weeks ago, they did move him to the other side on a higher number of snaps than anybody or any other week so far. I don't know what the reason was. I was just kind of looking at his alignments real quick as you were talking. But he is mostly going to be on Wiley's side. And, we saw those two battle in camp last year, and Wiley obviously had some trouble with Montez, but it's a very different situation in a game when you have to worry about the quarterback run, when you have to worry about, chip help and all the things that Andrew Wiley didn't get last year because Eric Bieniemy just sent him on an island, and that was kind of the offense. I think Sweat's also really interesting when Wiley's not blocking him, specifically zone read when no one's blocking him. He's one of the rare guys that is athletic enough to play the dive and the keep, and so his ability to single-handedly disrupt the run game in the zone read game could be huge. So do you just go to the other side, or do you trust that Marcus or Jaden is good enough with the ball to fake him out and get him to overcommit? So I think it's going to be an interesting week. They know, obviously there's some guys over here that know him. Wiley practiced against him a lot, so there's that experience. But I just don't think that the way that they've done things this year, they're going to leave him on an island a ton without something else going. Like, there's probably a snap or two that he'll get blocked by John Bates on the backside of a play action. But, it'll be because the quarterback is rolling the other way and then setting up a new pocket away from Montez Sweat. It's not going to be just, hey, back up and guard him and block him. Get your pass set. Let's go, buddies. No, if that's happening, things have gone wrong. It's bad down at distance, and there's other problems that you're going to have to deal with as well. Good choice. Andrew Wiley is the number, number 4 for the pick 6 at 6.
Number 5.
Who do we want to go with here, Anthony? I think that I am going to go with Dorrance Armstrong, which could wind up being a silly thing that we don't talk about on Monday if he doesn't play. But he really has. Well, actually, I'll be safer. I'll go with Dante Fowler. But I think both guys obviously can have a huge impact if they play. But the thing with where I'm kind of getting at here is there is some opportunities to rush on the Chicago offensive line. They've invested quite a bit in it. It's pretty good. But I think you need to win some one-on-ones and get home and pressure Caleb Williams because he is a guy that will freak out a little bit in the pocket. One, he'll start running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and if you can catch him, great. You get a big sack, and he'll minus 18 kind of play. Two, he will, like, there's a couple throws that he makes, and some of them are his interceptions this year, where he gets a guy pushed in his lap because he's not the biggest guy. He's not Jayden at 6'4", or one of these big, tall quarterbacks that just stands there and can see over the pocket. He's a little bit on the smaller side. He's like closer to 6'1", 6 foot. And so if he gets a guy pushed into his lap, he'll just kind of be like, and kind of flick the ball. Now, the bad news is he's so wicked talented with arm strength that he can flick the ball places that it shouldn't be able to go, and it can get there on time on target. The good news is sometimes it doesn't go there, and he'll just flick the ball off into no man's land, and you can come down with the pick. So I think Fowler going against, Darnell Wright, their first-round pick last year, like that's a matchup I like for Washington. Fowler is an experienced guy who's on a bit of a heater, going against a young guy. Like Wright's a good player; he's a great athlete, but he got a couple times in their last game that I saw. So I think whoever kind of lines up on that, like I guess I could have just said Darnell Wright and gone kind of what you just did. But considering how well Fowler's playing, how well he understands offenses, as we saw last week, that jump inside that he did a bunch of times, I think Fowler could be a huge impact in this game, and obviously Armstrong as well coming off the edge. And that's also a way I can avoid picking Frankie Louvu like I do every other week. That makes things slightly more interesting, but obviously he's in that mix as well.
I think one thing to add and note with those guys, their motor. Caleb Williams is a guy that loves to extend the play. So,
yes.
Their energy, their effort, I think is something that, we shouldn't overlook just because of we're going to need it.
No, that's a great point. And by the way, Dante Fowler this year, he is – where is he at? Grading out of 71. So I wanted to look that up because, oh, my God, they missed Montez Sweat. Yeah, I mean, Montez Sweat's always nice to have. He's a good football player, but 2.5 sacks, that's what Fowler had like last week. Fowler grading out as a better player. So I think I just, throwing that out there, that they're finding ways without the talent. And yeah, would they love to have someone stupid talented? Of course, but they're finding ways, especially as the year goes on and some of these guys get a little more used to playing with each other.
Number 6,
I was a little bit torn on this one, but we already talked about, DJ Moore. We talked about Keenan Allen and some of their playmakers. The guy we haven't talked about is DeAndre Swift, and I'm thinking Jeremy Chinn's presence in the box is going to be instrumental for the defense. Again, DeAndre Swift, very dangerous out in space. And as long as we limit him, we actually come up, we make the tackles. We've seen Jeremy Chinn miss tackles early in the season. And as of late, he's gotten into a groove. He's, been more consistent of a tackler. But DeAndre Swift is still a serious threat. And if he's going to be in the box, we're going to have to be able to, make shorthanded tackles. But also in coverage, I would think he's the guy. If not him, Quan. I'm not sure.
Well, I was going to say, so I think the two guys that I would highlight at the safety position are Chinn and Percy Butler.
Okay.
And that is because both their presence in the run game, like you said with Chinn, but also I think those are the guys that are on Cole Kmet, who is a really good weapon for Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great call, and I would add what Kmet brings. I think you had the stat earlier. What he's got 26 catches on 29 targets, something like that.
Yes,
it's crazy. And for a rookie quarterback to have that safety blanket, like we see it here with Ertz, there's a real value to that. But Kmet's also a guy that can get up the field. Like he can get vertical. He's got a little juice to him, and they find ways to hey, there's one play that Kmet had, I think, a touchdown on. If not, it was like a huge gain down to the 5, where they faked a toss one way, faked a bubble back the other, and the defense is like, whoa, and then Kmet just leaks up the center of the field, and you're just like, oh, that's so open. I think that's a good call. I would say I wish I had thought of this 5 seconds ago. If I could go back and replace number 5, I'm gonna just make a note here for us on Monday, because your DeAndre Swift point made me think of this. Fedarian Mathis I'm curious of his usage this week. I think he probably gets. If I was Joe Witt Jr., which I'm not, I'm starting him. I'm starting him next to Deron Payne because with Fowler, like Payne's got the great pass rush combo. They're starting to rush together really well. But against the run, they need someone who's just a bigger body who's hard to move. And I would rather have Newton have one of those guys in Sheldon Day when they're in. And I'd rather have Big Phil be with Deron and let him be a guy that can't be moved as easily, which makes the job easier for Luvu and Wagner and Chin because the holes are not nearly as big to try to defend, which is where Chin got in trouble earlier in the season.
Yeah, so Phil was the other guy that I was thinking about. But my thing is, in my mind, I'm thinking you're not going to try to run at Phil Masters. You know, they use Phil, they use Johnny.
I mean, you can try to not run at him, but even then, like everybody's involved in a run play.
True.
And like unless you were to just run away outside all the time, which invites its own, struggles because those plays are longer developing. There's a big risk of loss, typically trying to get north and south as soon as possible, especially a guy like Swift who doesn't see the cutback lanes always so great. Now, if he does and he hits it, like he's a home run threat, but his vision's not amazing on that stuff. Just being able to hold a double team for longer and occupy two lets Wagner and Luvu run and Chin run. And some of these guys get there from the backside and cleaner angles. So, it's hard. Yeah, you might not run straight at him, but that's fine as long as he's eating blocks because that's the thing that killed this run defense earlier in the year, and I think it's gotten better the last couple of weeks. First with John in there, and then definitely last week when Phil was in there, it was even better. All right, when we get back, we got a lot more on this game with Dan Wiederer of Take the North. It is our Odyssey Sports Bears podcast. He also writes for the Chicago Tribune here on The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. If you're just joining us and haven't had a chance to check the news of the day, I want to let you know that Jayden Daniels did practice today for the Commanders. He's listed as questionable for the game on Sunday. Might know more tomorrow. Might be a game time decision. We talked about all of that with Nicki Jhabvala at 5 o'clock. Definitely worth the rewind in the Odyssey app or check it out on the podcast if you missed it. Yesterday morning, had the chance to talk to a beat reporter for the Bears. He also happens to host our Bears podcast. Dan Wiederer, who is the host of Take the North and writes for the Chicago Tribune, and I did a crossover edition of Take Command and Take the North, and we talked quite a bit about the quarterback stuff, but we wanted to pick up the conversation for you here on a Friday on the radio with one of the other big concerns that Dan, on the Bears side of it, has about this Commanders team.
You also have a running back there that I know has turned heads here in this building. As they've watched Brian Robinson Jr. here this week, they've said, man, like this is a running game that is to be respected. And Brian Robinson Jr. obviously has a skill set that challenges you. And so what do you see from that lens in terms of his ability to be a major player in this particular matchup, if indeed the quarterback is not able to play?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. And so the first thing with their running game is extremely well designed. They have done a great job. One, Cliff was pretty good at it in Arizona. Like Cliff's last year, I think it was in Arizona, James Conner had like 1,300 yards. Okay. He's always been a guy who is good with the run game. And specifically, it's interesting now. I've heard some national folks talk about this, and I thought it was a really astute point. How because Cliff comes from the air raid system in college, where at Texas Tech, he's got 4 wide receivers on the field at all times. They're 165 pounds. Those dudes aren't blocking for anything. So how do I run the football with that personnel on the field? Well, sometimes we just have those guys get out of the way. Sometimes we create specific angles where I'm going to need you and your 165 pounds to run as hard as you can into that linebacker and crack him. And if you get in the way, you've done your job. And now he's taken some of those principles, some of that problem solving that he had to do in college, and he's got pro personnel, and he's doing it with, like, hey, let's take our third tight end, rookie Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State, who's an unbelievable blocker. Let's stick him in the slot, run that same thing, and now our pin-pull play is, like, hellish to deal with. So there's some design stuff. Also, Anthony Lynn is the run game coordinator who obviously rose to head coach with the Chargers, so he's an excellent coach. Bobby Johnson has a background with Brian Dable in Buffalo and New York, where some of the quarterback run stuff they did with Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, they've melded that in. Brian Johnson with what he did with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So they have all these brains that can either go one of two ways. You can have what happened to the Carolina staff last year, where they had a bunch of really great names, and Frank Reich can't put it all together, and you're like, oh, my God, this is terrible. And Bryce Young is on pace to be one of the worst 1-1 overall busts in the history of the sport. Or they can come together in a cohesive way, and you have what you have in Washington. So it's really well designed. Second part is because of the quarterback run factor, which absolutely does not dissipate with Mariota. He may be not as explosive in the open field as Daniels, but Marcus will kill you with his legs if you let him, and he's very, very smart and good at making the correct decisions in the zone read game. Like, he will read it correctly at an extraordinarily high clip. And the RPO stuff behind it. So between the quarterback being able to keep and the potential for RPO, run pass option, passes that can exploit certain run fits, there's just a lot to deal with as a defense. And so it's hard to ever be right in terms of your numbers and have the number of bodies you need. You need someone to make a play, which puts a ton of pressure on the defense. And they've run like these GT guard tackle power pull plays. They've run inside zone. They've run outside zone. They've run gap scheme stuff. They've run straight ahead duo play. Like any kind of run, it's in. And they sequence them really well too, where we got you flowing this way on zone stuff, and then bam, here comes a trap or a wham back the other way. So it's just, if that sounds like a lot, that's kind of the point, I would say, for the audience to take away is like, it's because they can do everything, and because on every play, every blade of grass is threatened, it's just really hard to be right as a defense. And then, to kind of more directly answer your question, Brian Robinson runs harder than hell. And so here's this 6'2", 235-pound guy who runs a 4.5, coming full steam ahead at your bad numbers. And, that part is kind of simple in terms. He's got great vision. He's really powerful, all the good running back stuff. And that is within an unbelievably efficient system.
I don't want to say the Bears have struggled defending the run because they're still a top 10 run defense, but they were number 1 in the NFL a year ago, and they've had some trouble this year limiting the explosive runs. Jonathan Taylor got loose. Tony Pollard got loose. Kyron Williams got loose a couple times. And so there is still that little bit of trepidation that they're going to allow one or two big ones to crack, and then all of a sudden you've had yourself a day that you didn't want to have. And so that will be a challenge for this group to, as you said, defend every blade of grass against this offense.
And on that front, Austin Eckler has been the big play guy. Like, B-Rob will just take a regular like GT pull 20 yards because it's blocked up well and he's hard to tackle and he's got good speed enough to run away from linebackers, and a safety will get him, knock him out of bounds. Eckler's the guy who's gone 50. And he has looked like he did, early career Chargers, super explosive. And they also do a great job of getting like kind of game plan runs. They'll figure out what Chicago wants to do, and they'll use that against them and sneak Austin Eckler somewhere, and he'll have a big play. Like, he's been the guy for that. And I think the other thing, too, that I'd be curious, Dan, not to move totally off the Chicago defense and anything we want to talk about with Washington's defense we can, is Commander's special teams has been outstanding this year as well. So, like, that's just another thing I want to kind of note. Eckler's been awesome in the return game. They are hitting the mess out of people. Like, they put all 5 safeties on the roster on the field on kickoff return, and they race to the ball to see who can hit the returner as hard as they can. They've knocked a couple out this year. So just, put that in your back pocket as well for special teams that we should pay attention to on Sunday as well.
We've got special teams coordinator Richard Hightower speaking with us on Thursday, so that's
nice.
Good to note. Some things that Richard had some background in Washington once upon a time, and be interesting to ask him about that. The Bears have their own sort of special teams concerns this week, I would say. Scott Daly, their long snapper who came in at the start of the season to replace Patrick Scales, who had back surgery, hurt his knee in London. I'm sure you've seen tight end Cole Kmet had to be their emergency long snapper in that game and ended up winning NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, which is a bit of a gimmick.
As one does.
And Cole will take it. But Scott Daly is back at practice. You kind of got to monitor it. They do have a backup long snapper on their practice squad if things don't go well leading up to the game, where you can kind of promote that. The other part of this is the Bears' injuries in their secondary right now, which Quan Brisker still in concussion protocol, Tyreek Stevenson coming back off a calf injury, and Kyler Gordon dealing with a hamstring issue, then thrusts some of your core special teams guys into heightened roles on defense, and so there's a handful of guys, Elijah Hicks, Jalen Jones, Josh Blackwell among them, that may have to juggle 2 things, and then you've got to play around in your special teams chess match and figuring out, okay, how much can we use them, if at all, on special teams if they're needed on defense. That's another little X factor against, as you say, a pretty good special teams unit from the Commanders.
So what's your ultimate key to the game? Because for me, this is a take command special. Logan and I spend an undue amount of time talking about game flow and just like, can you keep the game where you want it? If Chicago can somehow jump out early to a lead and Marcus has to drop back, assuming that he's playing, like that's bad news for the Commanders. I think if the Commanders can keep this in a positive game flow where the game is close, they can continue to run the football, that kind of stuff. Like, I think they can compete with the Bears team that I think is very good. I think I'd definitely pick Washington if Jayden was playing. With Marcus, it becomes a little hairier. I'll be a homer and take Washington just to represent my side of the screen here. But I do think that there is a distinct way in which this game becomes really difficult for Washington if Chicago can jump out early. For you, what's that kind of key thing that you think is a matchup or a way the game could be played, something that will determine the outcome more than anything else?
I'll give you a couple numbers that fit into what you're leaning toward right now. Number one, the Bears heading into Monday were 30th in the NFL in first quarter points scored. They have only scored 1 touchdown in the first quarter, 10 total points. Only the Eagles and Rams were worse. I was stunned to see that the Eagles have yet to score in the first quarter. That's like mind blowing this deep into a season. So you want that fast start that you're talking about. They haven't gotten off to a fast start this year. It's usually been middle of the second quarter on when they found their flow. And so that's something that they're going to have to do. Matt Eberflus's teams in his 3 seasons here, 3-16 on the road. So it's another concern. They haven't been able to consistently win on the road, and they've lost a few games where they've had commanding leads and blown them. And so you want to see this team with heightened talent and a greater belief about itself go in and handle its business in these games. This is one of those games where many a year past I would have said, no way I'm picking the Bears, because you just can't trust them. There's something about this team I really trust. There's a leadership in the locker room that keeps things steady in game and in weeks when there is adversity that hits, and they just seem to have a belief that they're climbing the staircase. And so I don't have to file my official pick until late Thursday evening for the newspaper and the podcast. Right now I'm leaning towards picking the Bears, because I just think there's something about this group right now that believes that they deserve to win this game and they're going to go handle their business.
And that's the thing. That is a mirror statement here in D.C. There's a professionalism, and obviously, with all the ownership changes and everything here, it's been such a dramatic change in the organization itself. But there's a professionalism about this group that is really fun to watch and really fun to cover. And it should be a good one on Sunday. I presume you'll be making the trip, Dan. I get to see you in the press box.
Saturday night flight. I'll be out there, and I kind of like the 3 o'clock, or I guess 4 o'clock start out there. Allows you to ease into your Sunday a little bit, and then I'll be in that press box. I guess it's Northwest Stadium now. That's what we're calling it.
Northwest Stadium. I like the Fed as a nickname.
Okay.
Northwest Federal Credit Union, because
I can't
there's
get
nothing
used to writing Northwest Stadium. It doesn't sound like a professional sports stadium.
No, there's nothing north or west about it either. It's very silly outside of the fact that it's named for a credit union with whatever that version of cardinal direction is, northwest. That's not what that Cardinals northwest. Anyway, nobody cares. Dan Wiederer, everybody. All right, appreciate Dan. If you want the rest of our conversation, check out the Take Command feed. And, of course, if you want Logan and I's preview of the game, that is also in the Take Command feed. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. When we get back, 1, we'll pick the game. 2, Anthony gets his revenge. It's my turn to play who he play for as we wrap up with real things next on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, wrapping up here on this Friday. Of course, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, where you see now a dancing Anthony Haney to the Rebecca Black Classic that ends our show every week. Anthony, Commanders, Bears. It's time. Are we going to make conditional picks? Do you need to make a conditional pick depending on with Jayden playing or not?
No, I think we I don't think conditional picks should be allowed.
I think they should be allowed. I think the point is to be right. And if the analysis is sharper because it's like, hey, if the quarterback plays or not, it's not like we're waiting on I don't want to be disrespectful. No, we're waiting on a punter, all due respect to Tress. We're waiting on the quarterback status.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of who
I'm picking the same team either way. So
yeah, me too. I think I'm going to go with the Commanders.
I am also going with the Commanders.
Yeah.
I actually think that I think this matchup actually has a couple of key spots. Now, the one area that scares me is like the outside, and there's a chance that Caleb just can get the ball in DJ Moore's hands and Keenan Allen's hands, and there is no resistance, and things go very, very badly. I kind of think they'll have a plan for that. I don't think Chicago's going to be able to run the mess out of the football. I do think Washington's going to run the mess out of the football. I think Washington becomes the first team to put up 21 on this Bears team in 12 games, and I think they win 24-21. If Caleb's in, or if Jaden's in, it's like 27-21.
I think with Jaden in, I think we go out there and win 28-17. That's my score prediction. And if he isn't in, it'll probably be a little closer, maybe like 24-17. But I'm with you. I think we're going to dominate the ground, rushing with B-Rob, Austin Eckler. Might even get a Jeremy McNichols appearance.
Hey, he's rushed well. I'd get him a couple carries. Let him run over someone.
I think it's going to be solid. And I think Terry might surprise a couple of people. I think Terry gets in the box against Jalen Johnson.
Oh, okay. That's a bold prediction. Jalen's a really good player.
He's nasty.
Those are our picks. Read it, weep, and we'll see how we did on Monday. Of course, don't forget, Take Command postgame show will be live from Northwest Stadium about an hour after the final whistle on Sunday. As soon as the postgame pressers are over, we get back upstairs. Logan and I will be live on YouTube at the Team 980, so check us out there. Yesterday, I sprung a game of who he play for on Anthony. Charles Barkley played the real version last night, and so it is time for Real Things and Anthony's Revenge to close out the show.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Set into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, it is an institution that hopefully will find a way to live on beyond this year. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. We imitated it yesterday. Today, we're just going to play along the annual quizzing of Charles Barkley on players who went to new teams. Who he play for, I'm going to play along. Anthony, roll tape.
Our first player is veteran Tom. Back in the league, Gibson.
Oh, I got this one. You know why I got this one, Anthony?
Because you gave it to me yesterday.
That is correct. Taj Gibson's playing for the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah!
God.
How did Chuck do?
Oh, Chuck did. Let's see.
Tom, back in the league, Gibson. You had to read when he re-signed. He had a whole big quote about Gibson. Who's he play for? The New Jersey Nets. Oh!
He said the New Jersey Nets. They're not even a team anymore.
He's so bad.
And next one, keep rolling. Keep rolling.
But if I wanted to get it right, I would have said the Charlotte Hornets. Why in the world would I watch the Charlotte Hornets play basketball? Okay. LaMelo played great last night. He's 0 for 1 after vowing to get 2 out of 5. Taylor, come on. Taylor, the Utah.
Did you hear that?
No, I missed it. I was dancing to the music, to be honest.
Taylor Horton Tucker.
Oh, of Laker fame. I'm going to guess Charles didn't get it right, and he said Utah. Taylor Horton Tucker, I'm going to go. Is he now with the Indiana Pacers?
He did it a couple years ago. He's now in Chicago.
He is a Chicago Bull.
Okay. Gets his games called by my pal Adam Amin.
He does.
Well, you can go out with Taylor Horton Tucker. So, player number 3 is Patty Mills. From Australia.
Oh, Patty Mills. Oh, we did this one yesterday. I think he's with the Kings.
Australia. Wait, I'm going to give you a hint. He did a thing because
he's with Utah. He's with Utah.
His culture is very similar to a culture in that
because I did the whole Dante Exum thing.
Patty Mills. Spurs. Patty Mills. The Jazz.
Oh,
You know
Chuck
they
got
helped him
it.
out yesterday? They helped him out.
You got that one right.
Someone was definitely in his ear.
No.
Now they paused the camera on the Jazz, like they stopped it, and then they tried to start it again. And he saw it. So
Oh,
they
good
helped
job,
him
Chuck.
out. Yeah, he was smart.
One more America.
One more America.
Let's have player number 4. Player number 4 is Doug McDermott.
Oh, he's with the Kings because we did this one yesterday too.
He is. I doubt you get the last one though, Craig.
Probably not.
You're doing good though. You're doing really good.
Helps when you got the answers yesterday on accident.
He didn't play. He didn't play. Dude, he just signed. They were just saying on the TV, they were like, oh, we didn't sign Doug McDermott.
He just played 5 minutes.
They were like,
tonight.
did he play 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't watching that game.
This is for your low standard of 2 correct.
Garrett Temple still in the league.
Garrett Temple, Craig.
I see. This is also cheating because the cover photo on Instagram, where I did not watch the video because I was like, I don't want to cheat.
I'm going to tell you right now, it is not right.
Okay, so it's not the Nets.
No.
Okay. Well, in that case,
Wow.
Garrett Temple still in the league is actually the correct answer.
He is in the league.
Is he with the Houston Rockets?
Who he played for, Hall of Famer.
Who he
does
played
play
for?
Chuckster?
The Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, again. Still plays for the Toronto Raptors.
He plays with the Raptors,
Hey,
Craig.
why would I watch the Toronto Raptors?
Because Toronto's one of your favorite cities.
It is my favorite city.
Well, okay. I did great because apparently they
You
used
cheated.
the same list that I used yesterday to quiz Anthony. Sorry, Anthony, that wasn't the revenge you were probably hoping for. Alas. Hopefully we'll see you Monday on a Victory Monday. But until then, enjoy your weekend, everybody.